Our first guest is someone whose journey through Pakistan's corporate landscape helped redefine what leadership could look like for generations of women in entering business, from joining Unilever Pakistan in 1983, and I'll leave this story for everyone else to be able to learn by themselves and unravel in the conversation today. But she did, spoiler, become the chairperson and the CEO. She has consistently represented excellence, resilience, and transformational leadership. And I have the pleasure of joining her for this fireside conversation. Please welcome with me on stage in your applause, Musharraf High. Yes, she's saying it's quite a full hall. I now, because I hold the mic, will have to be the messenger on Musharraf right now. That's a great honor in its own right. Yes, we've got the orange one for you and the blue one for me. We're still sticking. There you go. Yes, and it goes well with the thematic colors. Musharraf, first of all, without wasting much time, I do want to thank you for being here. I understand you've not been feeling well, but your commitment...
No,
you've been feeling fine? Okay, great. I was told that you weren't, so by the end of the day, you will have to not feel well, all right?
I'm very well.
Just to make sure we do so. Right, what I do wish, and please stand by, I will request the ushers to have functional mics ready to go into the house. I would like to have an engagement where you people will ask questions, and please make sure, the only request I have, it comes from sincere curiosity. Sincere curiosity. And Musharraf may second me on this. If you can keep it precise, I'd appreciate that. I will only ask 2 to 4 questions. And in the end, Musharraf, if you could give a nice wrap up in the end, I would really appreciate it. The floor is yours. Sure. Right, to kick off, you entered corporate leadership at a time, and Fahad was sort of suggesting to that as well, when authority was often associated with hierarchy, control, and absolute certainty. Today, younger generations seem to value transparency, collaboration, and emotional intelligence very differently. When you look at leadership now compared to when you first began, what shift do you think has been genuinely positive, and what do you think we may be getting worse?
We may be?
Getting worse.
Okay. So, Assalamu alaikum. Thank you very much for inviting me again. So this is not my first time, but I thank Fahad, Bisma, every one of you, because I'm a very proud Pakistani, and I love to see so many men and women who are curious, who are engaged, and who are looking for making a difference on this planet. That's why we are here. And we are here because, it's not about one step at a time. That's incremental. We are here because we want to make transformative change. And as Umair very clearly talked about this mountain, ascent of the mountain, it reminds me of a Chinese saying, or a Japanese saying, I'm forgetting that. You climb one mountain, and there's another mountain. And then there's another mountain. There are endless mountains. Some of the elements which Umair mentioned, Fahad mentioned, are absolutely critical. I mean, the shared ascent, resilience, etc. But let me talk about what I have seen in the span of 40 years, 4 decades. And it's very important we take a long view about this journey, because that is resilience. When we look for the returns for the same day, same year, they don't happen, and then we get disappointed. So a long view is absolutely necessary. In '83, in the Unilever, which I joined, there were no women in marketing, 0. The only woman was one in HR, and one was the CEO, chairman's secretary. That's all. Would you believe it today? You would not. So if I were to just fast forward from '83 to today, some of the most enterprising, accomplished, top talent women have come out of Unilever. How? So what has really changed, to my mind, is how we how we create as leaders inclusivity. It's not just about gender, socioeconomic class, etc. That is vanilla, basic. There are three very key elements in my experience to inclusivity. One is access, two are relationships, three is stakeholder management. So I'm going to just talk a little bit about each. Access is really given by leaders. It really starts at the top. Either we create a culture of openness, or as a leader, we completely create a culture where people are not going to feel comfortable, safe to voice. So really the onus on creating access is important. And what is this access? It's not recruitment, please. Access is a mindset which says, I'm going to take the risk. I'm going to take the bets. I don't want to 100% facts. We'll never take a decision then. So it is the appetite for risk-taking. It is the appetite for taking bets on talent. Some of the times it goes wrong. Yeah, that's okay. So failure is part of success, right? If I hadn't seen failure, if I hadn't seen some very tough times in my life and career, if I hadn't really fallen and then got up again, I don't think I could have been sitting here with you all today. So access is about creating that enabling environment for humanity, for people. And it starts with that. If I were to take the women's slice, then it is about a lot of time taking bets. I think Fahad mentioned, the standard response is, we don't have enough women for boards. We don't have enough women for IT. We don't have enough women engineers. Challenge that. Completely challenge that. I was told when I tried to come from research into marketing, oh, we don't take women in marketing. Would you believe it today? You would not. You'll say, oh my God, did she really come from that time? And that's what I heard. So, but did I accept it? No. Why? Because I thought I could do a very good job. So access is absolutely critical slice of, and then it's relationships. People work for people. They don't just work for this organization. They also work for people. So yes, organization sometimes is bigger than the sum of the people, but then people make up the organization. So relationships are absolutely critical. And it's not about discussing work. It's about knowing your people, the people who you are working with. It's knowing what makes them happy. It's knowing what motivates them. Very, very important. It's knowing what they do after 6 o'clock or after 7 o'clock. It's about having tea, having a cup of coffee. It's about having lunch together in the cafeteria. That are relationships. And those relationships have to go beyond your work environment. And then today, I sit with my brand managers very regularly who I work very closely with. Whether I meet them in Dubai, whether I meet them in Karachi, we have our girls' GT as we call it, and there are some boys in it also. And it gives me so much pleasure to see them now heading institutions, heading functions. They've succeeded. And that brings me to stakeholder management. That's, now it's not about just the CEO and the leadership team and the organization. It's about people we work with, our distributors, our customers, our agencies. All of them are critical element of this access. Their insights help us to take decisions. Decisions cannot be just the internal organization. It has to be a wider periphery. So this is the change that is happening. And the very fact that we are sitting here today signals that change. And in a bit, we will talk a little bit more about what it takes to bring about this change.
I love the teaser you left us with. I love how you've mentioned about thinking the long run. And a lot of things that you're saying essentially is entrepreneurial mindset. Unfortunately, we in Pakistan, and I'm so glad you're saying it because मैं कहता हूँ कोई सुनता नहीं है. We've gotten into a very short-term mindset as a nation.
Yes.
And therefore not take risks. Understandably, because of so many fears, generational fears that have been brought into us. But thinking long run always does that. And again, I love how you cannot rise and keep rising if you do not start and keep falling, and need to be able to do so. And if I could just very quickly, for the three things you mentioned, if I could say things that have generally moved positive and are they getting worse, access. Do you think things are moving positive or are they getting worse? Or in some ways, you can obviously split the hair.
Absolutely positive. Okay. Why? It's all a mindset thing. Today when I see so many women sitting in this conference, that itself is positive, very positive. It's a mindset thing. Do we see opportunity in volatility? Do we see opportunity in crisis? Absolutely important to do that.
Good.
And I will give my own example. I remember the Afghanistan war started. And there were several restrictions on imports, on pricing, etc., currency, and we were very badly affected because 80% or 70% of our portfolio at that time was always all imported. You know what we did in that 1 year was phenomenal. For every product that we had, we developed a 5 rupee, 2 rupee, 1 rupee price point. 1 rupee was Lifebuoy shampoo, 2 rupees was Sunsilk shampoo, 5 rupees was Surf sachet. Every brand had 1, 2, and 5 rupee. So there was an opportunity we created. It was huge. We opened up rural markets. We opened up new categories. So without going too much into it, what I mean is, one of the key elements today I look at in talent is their ability to navigate volatility, their ability to navigate crises without unflinchingly. You've got to embrace it. It's not going to be, oh, it's happened once in a way. No. I mean, where did the Middle East regional crisis start? Just 4 weeks ago? 6 weeks ago? And it changed. It's changed so much that we don't even know what the changes will be. Now, are we going to sit and say, oh my God, everything is falling apart, I'm feeling extremely negative and whatever? No, we are going to say, what do we need to do differently? How do we visualize the opportunity? And that is where leadership difference comes between what I call rare leadership and the normal leadership. How do you visualize the opportunity? And then how do you capture that opportunity? You know, and that's where execution comes. Very important. We can have visions, but execution. And then comes the play of teams. That's inclusivity.
I'm glad you brought it to that.
Yeah,
and I'm so very impressing you because I'm seeing the clock tick and I want to give you and them a little more opportunity.
I'm glad, please.
When you talked about teams, you talked about relationship as well earlier.
Yes.
And of course, they're part of the stakeholder management. Do you think that has been genuinely positive in terms of leadership right now, or do you think some of it could get better?
We can always get better, Omer.
Okay.
So that is my premise. I would never be satisfied with where I am, even today. I want to continuously learn. I want to continuously interact. I want to understand the changing technology. That's what I do now a lot. So we can always be better. Now, having said that, I think I would turn your question around a little bit. What do we all need sitting here today to have the shared assent?
Yeah.
We should never be one in a room. If I left Unilever when I did, after 24 years, and there weren't any women on my management committee who can hire and fire and take the top decisions, I would have been very unhappy. So we should always pull our people, men or women, but we should never be one. That's one thing. Second, we should have the courage of conviction to stay with our beliefs. Lot of the time we are shy to voice what we want to voice. We have to be fearless. I find a lot of talented men and women, especially women, let's say, at times who do not want to come and take that leap into the center. Why? What's stopping you? Yourself. So, you know, there was a question that you shared. In your own quiet way, what were the changes you did? I just cannot be quiet. I'm not a quiet operator. So I want to make myself heard. I have opinions. I learned that I'm not the only one with opinions. I learned. So many things I had to refine in my own leadership management. I had to learn. I had to refine. I had to grow. But for sure, you shouldn't be quiet.
I like that, and I'll take that as a cue. You should not be quiet, so if anyone who wishes to ask questions, please raise your hand. I will request the ushers to bring the mic to you. You are not going to be a quiet operator. That is where the shared assent will be. So if you have any curiosity, I'd like you to raise your hands. I mean, don't all of you raise your hands together. Please take turns. Yeah? I was being sarcastic, sorry. Not enough curiosity. We haven't generated one yet. I am not going to let you go to T and her to get off stage without a question from the house. May I ask another question then?
Hello, Mayor.
Oh, we have someone.
Can you hear me?
Oh, I can hear you. I can't see you. Yes.
It's okay. You can hear my voice and you can visualize me.
It sounds like the voice of God, but can you please identify yourself?
Okay. So my name is Dr. Mohammad Shiraz, representing GSK Pakistan. Ms. Musharraf, thank you so much for sharing your life experience. I like particularly your 3 critical success factors for the inclusion, which is access, relationship, and stakeholder management. So my question as a leader of the organization, how you made sure or how you hold responsible your leaders that they are practicing all these 3 critical factors? Thank you so much.
Okay. Very correct what you've asked. There has to be a shared belief. There's no point if you are the leader and you're saying all these things, but nobody believes in you. Okay. Now, also, you don't need 100% belief. I learned that. I would always want 100%, but then I was coached. And so you've got to pick and see who are those 3, 2, 4 people in your top team who really share the same passion. It's a shared passion. It's a shared culture. Then you start working around that and create the culture. One of the things to do is make it part of your leadership team's assessment. Make it part of their bonus. Make it part of their performance, rather. And it changes. I've had the same experience. My boss made it a part of my performance that I should create what they called a talent factory in Pakistan. That's what L'Oreal said. They made it a part of my performance that I should be able to export talent, or I should be able to bring 30% women on the board, or whatever, 25% in the organization. I mean, I would set a goal for myself today to say, if I were a CEO, it should be 50-50 on the board. So, you know, it should also be performance-driven, that culture. But you'll always have some people who are a bit lukewarm, some who are very passionate, and some who are your total believers. You've got to play all the levers.
Sorry, Mr. Chef, we've got 4 minutes and 40 seconds, so I'm going to just shoot some quick questions for quick answers. I know they may be mouthful, but
yes.
I would like your opinion as precise as we can. 2 quick questions on my end, and I would like to have one more question there and for you to wrap up in the last 4 minutes. So we've got something that the leaders have discussed privately, in fact, not so privately anymore, but Gen Z has now entered organizations with enormous awareness, confidence, and expectation. But many senior leaders also describe them as impatient with hierarchy, resistant to discomfort, and sometimes difficult to retain. As someone who has led across generations, what do you think this younger generation is correctly demanding from the workplaces? And where do you think they still need maturity?
Well, I think Gen Z is here with us, so we've got to adapt to them. I come from the other side. And that was a major difference between my Unilever days and my L'Oreal days. I saw more Gen Z in L'Oreal than I did at Unilever. I had to adapt. Gen Z won't adapt. So what is the most important thing you have to adapt to Gen Z? In my experience, first, their way of working is very different. They are very highly productive, but they work differently. How do they work differently? They are much more globally aware. They use technology much more, so they can work faster. Second, they are impatient. I can't make them patient, not possible. In any case, I'm not a patient person either, so it helps. We are all impatient. I'm a highly impatient person, still, after all these years. So you've got to really accept that impatience. Impatience is very, very positive because it means you are not resting on your laurels. You want to keep moving. It's movement. So you've got to accept the impatience on salary, on leave, on what they want to do after 6 o'clock. So if I want to work till midnight, half my life I did, so it's not necessary they will want to work. They have other and better things to do. So in short, we have to adapt to them.
I love that. We have 2 minutes and 20 seconds. Would you like to make another question or would you like to wrap it up? It's up to you now. I'm giving you the opportunity. Do we have another question in the house, by the way? Any other question? We have a question from a lady over there. Would you like to take that question?
Yes, please.
We've got 2 minutes. We can wrap this up. That'd be our question. So if you can make it brief and precise, I'd appreciate it. So we're not chewing into the time of the others. Madam.
Hello, this is Zara, and I'm from Taj Gasoline. And being a Gen Z and someone who has just entered the corporate world, I want to ask you that since you have had a 4-decade-long career, you have seen many transformations. But one factor that impedes such transformation is the organization's resistance to change. So how do you navigate that?
Wow, okay.
I dare you to challenge that in 1 minute and 20
Yeah.
seconds.
Let me say I've been lucky that I joined Unilever. So there's a bit of luck also in our lives, and I was lucky to have worked for such fabulous organizations like Unilever, L'Oreal, and even during my 2 years of association with Khadi. They were very open to change, they were very open to ascending the mountains. And they were very open to men and women, both. So I've been lucky in having that environment in which I could operate, and I'm also very aware that there are some organizations when it's very, very difficult. So you've got to make some choices. First, you've got to try what is in your sphere of influence. And that you have to work through. And I again say resilience comes into that. But after a point, if you find that organization is really not the right place for you, and there is nothing which is making you feel good in the morning when you go, I think you have to change and move out of that organization and go somewhere else. I've said this before, because there is that much you can do, but you cannot completely change the culture of an organization. You can try in your sphere, and do try to make the difference, but a point in time comes when it's very difficult to wake up in the morning and say, I'm going to go to work. And I think that's the calling. That's the calling. And when that hits you, you've got to move on.
I like that. I mean, I think that's ruthlessly honest. Persist. Yeah, round of applause for that. Thank you very much for saying that. You have to persist, but be honest to yourself
Yes,
as well.
you've got to be honest. So if I have to just sum up, Umair, with your permission.
Yes, please. I'd like you to sum that up.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, I say this with as much sincerity now. Take things in your hands. Don't always look for somebody else to make the difference. You have to really be the leader from the start. Now, some of you will say, easier said than done. No. A lot of barriers exist in our minds. The common question I always received in the 80s, even in the 90s, is there a glass ceiling? What is this glass ceiling? Where do you see it? Now, it may exist, but hard work, very hard work to establish your credibility, discipline, hard work, and courage of conviction. These are the 3 acid tests for ascending and sharing that mountain, not just by yourself, but with those who believe in you. So, and people underestimate the importance of hard work. Hard work really, really gives you that authority, it gives you that credibility. Discipline helps you to make the choices. Make choices. And courage of conviction enables you to speak your mind. Thank you.